studio. Let's bring in Ashley Etienne and Maura Gillespie. Ashley previously served as communications director for Vice President Harris. Maura was an advisor to House Speaker John Boehner and Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Good to see you both. Let's start first with this bill. I thought Republicans didn't like this thing, Maura. Why did they suddenly all come home?
Because it's a better situation for them to have this passed, one, broken up into pieces individually for the House. That was a smart strategic move by Speaker Johnson. But largely, this doesn't involve border security, so they, can continue to complain about the lack of border security funding and, kind of do Donald Trump's bidding in that effort. In
essence, the issue is still there, so everyone can still campaign on
win for them.
Border security.
Absolutely.
I mean, I like to believe that Speaker Johnson got religion, that he somehow became very fully aware of the implications of not passing these bills is having on our allies around the world. And it's really exacerbating the problems from Israel to Ukraine. So, I mean, I like to believe that, there was a little politics there, but mostly putting the interests of the country ahead of the party's
I completely agree. I think Johnson absolutely realized, seeing some of the briefing documents and getting some of those things that we're not even privy to, intelligence briefings. I think he chose to do the right thing for the right reasons. And as my old boss would say, the right things will happen. And in that effort, fantastic. But for some of his members, especially in the Senate, who were kind of touting and saying they would never pass Ukraine aid, they also now have come on board because I think they in part have seen that this is a good strategic messaging effort for them.
Yeah. If he didn't get religion, he at least got a classified briefing or two that scared him into doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One other thing the speaker's now doing, apparently he's going to Columbia University tomorrow to call attention to the concerns about anti-Semitism on that campus and on campuses nationwide. This continues to be a congressional concern. Where does this issue go next? And what are the politics of this? This could be a little tricky.
I agree. I mean, I think this is going to be a tough one for Johnson. And I was surprised by how quickly this was just announced, given what's happening in Columbia, at Columbia, but other schools, obviously, in the area as well. I'm alarmed by it just as a citizen and just watching it from the outside in. I'm alarmed by it. I also think in messaging for tomorrow, I'll be curious to hear if Speaker Johnson talks about student loans and the forgiveness and talking about privileged students who are out there saying, death to, some, not all, but saying death to America, and then also asking for forgiveness of their student loans. It's not going to sit well with the American people.
Way to talk about it, yeah. And this is a tricky one for Democrats, too.
No, I mean, this is the issue that continues to dog the president. I mean, the challenge here is that it's an issue where he and Netanyahu's interests are conflicting, and it's a situation where he has absolutely no control over it. He lost upwards of 200,000 votes uncommitted during the primaries in places like Michigan. I'm hearing on the ground those people are not going to come back to the party. They're not going to vote for Joe Biden. So this is an issue that continues to dog the president, and it's one in which there's no easy solve for. There's no easy fix for this one. I mean, the good thing is that aid is now going and going to hit the ground. So hopefully that will let some pressure out of the valve. But the reality is this is an issue that's going to continue to dog the president.
I want you to take a listen to something the president had to say today in Florida, if we can run that, please.
Next week, one of the nation's most extreme anti-abortion law will take effect here in Florida. Don't think he's making a deal right now with MAGA extremists to ban nationwide abortion in every single state, because he's making it. In fact, the MAGA majority in the House of Representatives has introduced three separate bans to ban choice nationwide in every single state, based on each state. These bills have overwhelming support Republicans in Congress. But know this, as long as I have the power of the presidency, it's never going to happen.
Twice there, he said the A word.
Yes.
He's now saying the word
of Joe
abortion.
Biden on this issue, right? The evolution.
Remind the viewers why this is kind of a big deal.
Well, I mean,
and why he needs to say it in the eyes of Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Biden's been a lifelong Catholic. I mean, I think he goes to Mass every Sunday, as he said. And so the problem has been, and I saw this from the inside, where you had this young woman, former AG, from California, that was further left than her boss on this
Vice
issue.
President.
Absolutely. So how do you reconcile these two positions? Well, it looks like the president's gotten smart on the issue and is realizing that this is not just a winner for the Democratic Party, but is a critical issue for women all over the country, not just Democratic women, but we've seen moderate women that have flipped Kansas, Ohio. This is the gift that will keep giving for Democrats, no doubt, going into the election.
Are Republicans sounding alarm bells yet down in Florida, concerned that this thing could pass and potentially lift other Democrats on the ballot?
Probably not in Florida, but elsewhere in the country, it's absolutely a problem for Republicans. We have long struggled on this issue, and we will continue to do so if we are encouraging bans like this. And again, I, as a Catholic, I don't know who decided you have to be pro-life and pro-choice. I believe you can be two things at once. You know, you can believe in the sanctity of life, but also respect half the population's medical freedom. And I think Joe Biden's using the term abortion here is an interesting choice for him, definitely a winning choice for him as far as Democrats go. I always appreciated him talking about it as far as women's reproductive rights. I appreciated that. But again, I think that this is an issue where Republicans aren't looking holistically at how they're going to even help women that they are subjecting these kind of bans onto. There's no protocols in place to say, okay, well, you have to have this child, but here's some support for that child, or here's some support for your health care.
Right.
There's nothing there.
And Democrats have always said that about Republicans. You could be pro-life when the baby's in the stomach, but when the baby comes out, you're split and run. You know what I mean? You don't provide them any sort of aid and support, to your point.
Yeah.
So, but this is, I think, this is, again, we've seen Gavin Newsom that's now up with ads all over the place. He's had billboard in 7 states that have. So this is an issue that the entirety of the Democratic apparatus is going to be leaning in on, because it draws this nice contrast between where Republicans are, Donald Trump is, and where Democrats are. Freedoms, democracy for all, free choice versus Republicans, snatch and grab,
And I
no options.
I had a conversation with someone this morning who points out that because in Florida, the passage of that ballot measure requires 60% approval of the voters, it's going to have to be a more nonpartisan or bipartisan argument made than in places like Arizona, where Democrats can just lean into it and get as many Democrats to vote it and get it over the finish line on the majority vote. We'll be talking a lot about this over the next several months.
No doubts.
Morgan Gillespie, Ashley Etienne.